Pursuant to Executive Order D-2020-259 dated November 19, 2020, I hereby call the order of the first extraordinary session of the Colorado Senate of the 72nd General Assembly of the State of Colorado to order. Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Bridges, Cook, Coram, Crowder, Danielson,
Here.
Donovan, Finberg, Fields, Foote, Gardner, Janal,
Present.
Gonzalez, Hanson, Hill, Heisey, Holbert, Lee, Lundeen, Marble,
Good morning.
Moreno, Pedersen,
Here.
Briola, Rankin,
Here.
Rodriguez, Scott, Smallwood,
Here.
Sonnenberg, Story, Tate, Todd,
Present.
Williams,
Present.
Winter,
Here.
Woodward, Zinzinger. Mr. President.
Here. With 35 present, 0 absent, and 0 excused, we have a quorum. Minority Leader Holbert, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes, Mr. President. Members, guests, those listening online, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to these United States of America? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Secretary of the Senate has received the executive order for the first extraordinary session of the 72nd General Assembly. We will forego the reading of the executive order, and it will be spread upon the pages of the journal. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of the second regular session of the 72nd General Assembly be made the temporary rules of the first extraordinary session of the 72nd General Assembly.
The motion before the body is to adopt the rules of the second regular session of the 72nd General Assembly as temporary rules of the first extraordinary session. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate stand in a brief recess to hear the remarks of Senator Garcia, the President of the Senate.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, the Senate will stand in a recess. Good morning, members, and welcome back to the Senate. We have been called here to serve the people of Colorado during this extraordinary and turbulent time. 2020 has been a year of harrowing heartbreak and a transformational civil unrest. We have watched our country be torn apart by brutish political infighting, while simultaneously we have suffered the worst threat to our collective health in over a century. Now, as the pandemic reaches a new level of devastation to both human life as well as economic stability, it is our responsibility to meet the immediate needs of Colorado families and get them the relief to weather the storm. Because the reality is, the storm we are in the midst of is a terrifying and destructive storm. People all over the state are quite literally fighting for their lives and their livelihoods. Families on the edge of homelessness, parents anxious, balancing work without childcare, and businesses are closing at unprecedented rates. Without continued aid from Washington, thousands of Coloradans are facing increasingly desperate situations, their life savings, food security, and education disappearing right in front of them. However, despite an embarrassing display of inaction at the federal level, we are here to set a better example, working in a bipartisan manner to address the dire challenges facing Colorado. Because even though our power and resources as a state are not limited, they are not without anything. That's why for the next 3 days, we are going to do everything we can to deliver the support to families and businesses to make it through the months ahead. While this task may be enormous, I truly believe that every single person in this room and those joining us by conference are ready to do this approach to ensure that our objective, with the focus of cooperation and humility, that we will deliver these policies for the hardworking Coloradans that they desperately deserve. Because ultimately, this special session is not and cannot be about us. With every speech we give, every question we ask, and every bill we introduce, let us remember the collective calling we are here to honor, always putting personal agendas and self-serving attitudes aside. In that spirit, I want to take a moment to recognize the incredible amount of work that has taken us to get here today, as well as the monumental work we have ahead of us. I want to thank both the majority leader and the minority leader for their continued unreserved partnership during this process. In fact, I am exceedingly proud and comforted by the bipartisanship and the collaboration that this chamber has demonstrated over the last few weeks. Dysfunction and political showmanship may be alive and well in the halls of Congress, but right here in the Colorado Senate, we are showing yet again the power of people-first politics. I want to also take a second to thank the staff who have worked tirelessly to organize this extraordinary session, drafting bills outlining safety protocols and overcoming tech challenges. We wouldn't be here without you today. Lastly, I must call your attention to our state's climbing positivity rate. Right now, 1 out of every 41 people is infected with COVID right here in Colorado, a number that should serve as a somber reminder that we must keep each other safe. Being in this building presents an undeniable risk to everyone involved, and we need to treat our time here with respect, reverence, and abundance of caution. So thank you in advance for your partnership, your mindfulness during this process. I have faith that we will work quickly, efficiently, and safely to deliver the relief that our constituents so urgently need. With that, I stand ready with you to get to work. Mr. Majority Leader. The Senate will come back to order. Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that your remarks be spread upon the pages of the journal.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that a committee be appointed to notify the governor via telephone that the Senate is organized and ready for business.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, Senator Rodriguez and Senator Ladeed will be appointed to the committee to notify the governor via telephone that the Senate is organized and ready for business. The following senators are excused. The Senate will stand in a recess until those senators return. Minority Leader Holbert is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, thank you for your remarks. I think it is acceptable for me to indicate that our caucus is supportive of why we are here today and probably for the next two. I asked for this opportunity to maybe speak more to the people outside of the Capitol, because the past several months, as the good senator from Aurora indicated, this has been a very challenging year. People outside the Capitol have understandably asked, why is their state legislature so silent? Why haven't we been doing anything? And it has been an opportunity, you know what I like to do, to explain the history of our Constitution and the decisions that the people of Colorado have made to amend that state constitution. In 1988, the people of Colorado voted on what was then known as Amendment 3. Amendment 3 passed on the ballot, and the people made a significant change to their state legislature. Last year, the state Supreme Court ruled on a matter regarding that significant change. That change in 1988 created a 120-day session calendar here at the Capitol. We're not allowed to go more than 120 days in general session. But it did more than that. It converted we state legislators here in Colorado from full-time year-round elected officials to part-time citizen legislators. And what I have found is when people learn what the voters approved in 1988, they're not alarmed. They're not frustrated. They appreciate knowing that history, because so many people who live in Colorado now weren't old enough to vote in 1988, didn't live here in 1988, or weren't even born yet in 1988. That was 32 years ago, so there are many people voting here in Colorado who weren't even born when that decision was made. People have rightly asked, why is the governor allowed to do so much on his own? In large part, it's because of that decision in 1988. The legislature isn't here for 8 months a year, and this year it changed a bit because of the extension due to COVID. We left here June 15th. And since then, this branch of our state government, the legislative branch, has been inactive because the people decided 32 years ago that they wanted a part-time citizen legislature. And that's unique because those limitations don't apply to any other elected official in Colorado, whether we look to school board members or town or city council members, mayors, county elected officials, our statewide elected special district board members. Of course, the governor, the secretary of state, the treasurer, and the attorney general, our members of Congress, can meet year-round. But we cannot, unless 2/3 of us agree to call a special session, which certainly has not occurred since 1988, when the voters told us they didn't want us here more than 120 days a year. So the way special sessions have happened since then, and really I think every time since 1876, is that we rely on the governor to call a special session. The next thing I want to address. Understandably, people have been weighing in, at least with the minority caucus, we Republicans, and saying, now you'll have an opportunity to do this or that, to run a bill to address some topic that is important to those people who are advocating. But if we go back to our state constitution, Article 4, Section 9 says that the governor has the authority to call the legislature into special session, but that topics not specifically identified in the call cannot be transacted. Now that's an unusual word because I don't typically use that word in describing the process here at the Capitol. But I think what it means, I'm not an attorney, but in my layperson mind, I think what it means is that topics that the governor has not called us back to address can't pass. And if we were to put a bill on his desk that he considers outside his call, he could choose to veto that bill simply because he determines on his own that it is unconstitutional. All of this information is available to those who take time to read our Constitution, but it may not be obvious because not everyone gets to participate in this fascinating process that we do. But I do appreciate, Mr. President, the opportunity to explain some of this, because in recent days I've definitely heard from people to say, finally, you're going to be able to pass a bill that does this or does that. There will be bills from our caucus that seek to address some of those issues, but I wanted to take the time to explain the limitations that we have as a legislature, the limitations that we have as a minority in the legislature, and to explain, not blame, but to simply explain that the answers can be found in a document that very few people ever take time to read, the Constitution of the state of Colorado. Mr. President, I'm proud to stand with you here today and our 33 other colleagues, either here in this room or online. I look forward to hearing from the people of Colorado who come here to testify, or I think for the first time do that remotely by, I think, WebEx. We'll learn here. This will give us an opportunity to prepare for January 13th when the next general session starts. General sessions are when we all get to introduce up to 5 bills of our own choosing of general concern to the state of Colorado. But today, day one of what will likely be a 3-day session, we are here to focus on special concerns in a special session that have been specifically identified by the governor and brought us back for a very good reason. And I want to thank the good senator from Adams County, the chair, our lead on the Joint Budget Committee, for standing up for this branch, for standing up for the legislative branch of our state government. Thank you. Also to the senator in our caucus from Carbondale, thank you. And by the way, for those listening online, our rules don't allow us to use the names of our fellow senators, so that's why we refer to them by their districts. But what we're doing here today is standing up for our branch, the legislative branch. We're here to represent the people within the limitations of our state constitution. Senate Republicans asked months ago for the governor to call a special session. Our interest at that time was to discuss issues surrounding public K-12 education, not necessarily to ask for vouchers, but to talk with teachers and school districts, their local control here in Colorado. Are there things that we could change, at least during the pandemic, that would make it easier for teachers to connect with students? One idea that I had was a question: would a teacher in a public school in Colorado be allowed to get in his or her car and go to a house, or maybe a community center and a homeowners association or something like that, a recreation center in a community, and teach a small group of kids in that facility? I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know whether a school board would need our help in making that decision. But those were the kinds of conversations that we wanted to have months ago. That was a legitimate request of the one person who can do that on his or her own, the governor. But that was described at the time as a political stunt. Okay, it wasn't. Mr. President, colleagues, Senate Minority Caucus members, we Republicans are here to work together for the people of Colorado, and we are proud to do so. We are proud to have the opportunity to represent them and to stand up for balance in government, the legislative branch. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the leadership of our Joint Budget Committee. So, gentlemen, again, thank you for what you did in that environment. Mr. President, there are solutions that Senate Republicans will propose. We hope that they will be given fair consideration in a hearing. If it means we need to be here for more than 3 days, we are prepared to do that. Mr. President, thank you for your communication. Mr. Majority Leader, thank you also for your communication over the past few weeks in organizing this special session. God bless every member of this General Assembly, the people of Colorado and the United States of America. Thank you, Mr. President.
The Senate will come back to order. Would the committee please report? Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. After a long wait of deliberation in the House for them to figure out who had to call the governor, we have notified the governor, let him know that we are ready to operate, and he thanked us for our time.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, we've just come back from notifying the governor that we are organized and prepared to do business. It will not surprise you, the House was not quite organized, but eventually they will be prepared to do business. Before we got into the meat of the matter and acknowledging the important business that we have to do, we did, on behalf of all of you, my colleagues, members of the Senate, extend to the governor our best wishes to him and his family for a speedy and complete recovery. I also, as you probably would not be surprised, Mr. President, when you hand me an opportunity to chat with the governor, we spoke briefly about policy and some of the matters before us as well. In fact, I believe that we are a little bit late to this party. You might, if you really stretch the conversation, say too little, too late. As you will recall, we, the Republican caucus of this particular chamber, on July 28th said, you know what, things are looking difficult for the people of Colorado. There are challenges, storm clouds clearly growing, that we can see and we should take action. Alas, we did not gather then, but we have gathered now, and so we are grateful for that. And to the governor I said, Mr. Governor, my theme for this particular session will be, yes, we have so many things. There are 7 bills that have been anointed, and my perspective on those 7 bills is generally yes. But I told the governor, and will be another word that I would ask you, Mr. Governor, to join, and I would ask you, my colleagues, in discussing as well. Yes, and. There are other things we should be looking at. There are different ways of looking at this. In fact, the reality is government sometimes does things well, and sometimes government is ham-handed. The one-size-fits-all nature of a law does not always take care of everyone. It leaves Coloradans behind. It creates difficulties where, in fact, it is trying to do good. And therefore, yes, and, I believe, must be the call of this particular session. We must look at ways to get to the individual business owner and provide them opportunities not to provide just relief in terms of dollars, in the 1930s Great Depression sense of the dole, of relief. We need to think of ways to provide them relief so that they may get back to business, that they may get back in a safe way to providing for their team members and their families. As we listen to the clinicians, to the people who lead hospitals, to the people, quite frankly, in the public health space, they are telling us that the spread is not happening in restaurants, where people are being diligent and following the policies that the governor has handed down. The spread is not happening in those small businesses who are fighting to survive. It's happening informally. And so the question lingers, why then do we continue to press down upon these people with rules and regulations that may in fact not be beneficial to the actual addressing of the problem before us? And so yes, and becomes the question. And now you'll realize at this point, the governor is very patient with me, but I did not talk quite this long with him. But you, my colleagues, tend to be even more patient with me. And so I am elucidating in greater detail that which we spoke about in summary with the governor. So as we think about what we're doing, colleagues, as bills come before us in the limited committees that we have formed to do business today, I would ask, are we willing to say yes, and perhaps we could provide relief beyond a few dollars? We might be able to actually change policy slightly. Yes, and perhaps those parents who want their child desperately to be back in the classroom, but for a familial health reason cannot put that child back in the classroom, or because mom or dad, for a career reason or a job reason, is not able to put that child back in the classroom, can we provide support and sustenance and resources to them in a different way that speaks to them as an individual of this great state of Colorado, as opposed to a class, a group of people, hey, fit into this group or get out of my way. Can we stop, pause, and answer that question? Yes. And we see you as an individual. We see your circumstances as different and difficult, and we see an opportunity to serve you. I would ask that we do that. So one size may fit all sometimes, and that's our yes. But it doesn't always one size fit all. And so I think we need to answer the call by saying yes and. Thank you, Mr. President. The governor was glad to hear we're organized and ready to do business, and I'm glad that we've begun business. Thank you, Mr. President.
Introduction of consideration of resolutions. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to SCR 001.
Concurrent Resolution 1 by Senator Lundin and Representative McKean, submitting to the registered electors of the state of Colorado an amendment to the Colorado Constitution concerning the legislative oversight of a state of disaster emergency declared by the governor.
Finance. Will the clerk please read the title to SJR 001?
Senate Joint Resolution 1 by Senator Woodward and Representative Bockenfeld concerning terminating the governor's authority under the declared state of a disaster emergency.
Finance. Will the clerk please read the title to SR 001?
Senate Resolution 1 by Senator Finberg concerning a change to the rules of the Senate to authorize the President of the Senate to promulgate regulations to allow remote testimony by the public during the proceedings of Senate committees of reference while there is a declared public health disaster emergency.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move SR 001.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is a resolution that we have discussed a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and it is a rule change that is adding on to Senate Rule 44 that will provide more opportunities for the general public to testify and participate in committees of reference remotely. This is only in effect during public health disaster emergencies like the rest of Senate Rule 44 is, and it is meant to ensure that the general public can participate fully in our democratic process and do so in a manner that doesn't put their health at risk, and I urge and I vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of SR 001. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, SR 001 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senators Gonzalez, Hansen, Bridges, Donovan, Janal, Williams, Moreno, Zenzinger, Pedersen, Todd, Story, Winter, Lee. Senator Janal, I have you marked. Senator Fields, Rodriguez. Senator Todd, I have you marked as well as a co-sponsor. Danielson. Co-sponsors. Senator Pedersen. Please add the president. Introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 1 by Senators Winter and Priol and Representative Harrod concerning support for entities impacted by severe capacity restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Finance.
Senate Bill 2 by Senators Gonzalez and Holbert and Representatives Exum and Tipper concerning temporary assistance for individuals who are facing financial hardship due to the COVID-19 pandemic in a connection therewith creating the Emergency Direct Assistance Grant Program and transferring money to the Emergency Direct Assistance Grant Program Fund, into the Housing Development Grant Fund, into the Eviction Legal Defense Fund for this assistance.
Finance.
Senate Bill 3 by Senators Fields and Crowder and Representatives Duran and Landgraf concerning assistance for individuals who are unable to pay their energy utility bills and in connection therewith transferring money from the general fund of the Energy Outreach Colorado Low Income Energy Assistance Fund.
Finance.
Senate Bill 4 by Senator Moreno and Representative McCluskey, concerning a transfer from the general fund to the controlled maintenance trust fund of money that will be available to the governor for a limited time for further transfer to the disaster emergency fund for public health and emergency response expenses associated with the COVID-19 pandemic emergency.
Finance.
Senate Bill 5 by Senator Sonnenberg and Representative Holtorf, concerning requirement that a state of disaster emergency declared by the governor expire after 60 days unless the General Assembly extends or authorizes the governor to extend the state of disaster emergency.
Finance.
Senate Bill 6 by Senator Lundin and Representative Geithner, concerning providing financial support for parents whose children participate in remote instruction as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and connection therewith, creating the Remote Instruction Family Stipend Program.
Finance.
Senate Bill 7 by Senator Gardner, concerning additional procedural requirements for the issuance of an emergency public health order.
Finance.
Senate Bill 8 by Senator Crowder, concerning the authority of county governments to reject compliance with the imposition of statewide disaster emergency order having legal effects within the unincorporated portions of the county.
Finance.
Senate Bill 9 by Senator Woodward and Representative Larson, concerning exemptions from orders requiring businesses to close.
Finance.
Senate Bill 10 by Senator Corman and Representative Arden Catlin, concerning amendment to the definition of electric utility in relation to broadband use of electric easement and connection therewith, defining electric utility to include a generation and transmission cooperative electric association in the Western Area Power Administration.
Finance.
Senate Bill 11 by Senator Tate and Representative Landgraf and Pelton, concerning civil immunity for small businesses that comply with applicable guidelines related to COVID-19.
Finance. Announcements. Senator Gonzalez. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, just a quick note. So we will be breaking here shortly and allowing the Finance Committee to do its work. I think you will hear from the Finance Chair in just a moment about the plan for that committee. The plan is to come back to the floor to hopefully, first to come back to the floor to read those reports across the desk, and then bills that need to go to Appropriations Committee. Hopefully will go to Appropriations Committee today. And then the plan is for those bills to come back to the floor for us to start our work on second reading for the bills that have come out of those committees. That's the plan for today. We anticipate those bills being on thirds tomorrow. And then my understanding is that the House is doing about the same thing, and we will start receiving the bills that started in the House tomorrow afternoon, and we will continue the process all over again and hopefully be done with our work by the end of Wednesday. That's the plan for now. I'll let the Finance Chair give an announcement in one moment about where they will be meeting, times, and the plan for that committee.
Senator Gonzalez.
Gracias, Presidente. Members, welcome back to our extraordinary session. Our Senate Finance Committee will be meeting 15 minutes upon adjournment in our old Supreme Court chambers. We will be hearing a number of bills, and I'm going to read to you the order of said bills. So take notes. Y'all get your pens ready. We're going to start with Senate Bill 3. That is the Fields and Crowder bill, money for utility bill payment assistance, followed by Senate Bill 4, Moreno, the bill to transfer to make money available for the COVID emergency. Senate Bill 2, Gonzalez and Holbert, housing and direct COVID emergency assistance. Followed by Senate Bill 1, Winter and Priola, COVID-19 relief for small and minority business arts organizations. Followed by Senate Bill 9 by Senator Woodward, business exempt from public health order to close. Followed by Senate Bill 11, the Tate bill, immunity for small businesses during COVID-19. Followed by Senate Bill 8 by Senator Crowder, county authority during declared disaster, followed by Senate Bill 6, the Lundin bill, remote instruction for family stipend program, followed by Senate Bill 10, The quorum bill, broadband infrastructure access for electric easement, followed by Senate SCR 001 Lundin, by Senator Lundin, legislative oversight of governor emergency powers, followed by SJR 001 by Senator Woodward, termination of governor authority under state of disaster emergency, followed by Senate Bill 7, the Gardner bill. Apologies here. Gardner concerning additional procedural requirements for the issuance of an emergency public health order, followed by Senate Bill 5 by Senator Sonnenberg concerning a requirement that a state of disaster emergency declared by the governor expire after 60 days unless the General Assembly extends or authorizes the governor to extend the state of disaster emergency. We will be meeting at 11:05 for individuals who are interested in testifying. You can do so on the State of Colorado's General Assembly website, which is ledge.colorado.gov. If you click on the committees button, you will see the ability to sign up. You can testify via written testimony. You can also sign up to testify remotely via the WebEx application, and you can also sign up via that website to testify in person should you so desire. Thank you all members. I look forward to seeing you, and we will see you in 15 minutes. Thank you.
I need some time to get the bills printed out. Can we have a little bit extra time? I do not computer nor a bill file.
You're fifth on the...
Oh, any of the bills. Further announcements?
Okay.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Well, maybe like while we're.
Got it. I appreciate it. Good to see you. How are you?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate stand in recess until 1 p.m. today.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, the Senate will stand in a recess until 13:30 today.